Hello everybody, this is Pastor Green. We're doing another Bible study, 1 Corinthians chapter 10. If you'd like me to come speak at your church, or if you have any questions, you can email me at godsohman@gmail.com. 1 Corinthians 10 with verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. Now, if you guys don't remember what happened here, this is when the waters parted and Moses and all the Israelites got to escape Egypt. They got to get away from Pharaoh. We were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat. If you go to Exodus 14, it talks about this event. It says, the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, over against Baal-perazim, before you shall encamp by the sea. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them, unto their right hand and unto their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went to the midst of the sea. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked into the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire into the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels. And the waters returned, and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remaineth not so much as one of them. If you go to Psalm 66, it says, He turned the sea into dry ground, and they went through the flood on the foot, and then we did rejoice with them. So this is a picture of Egypt, the Mediterranean Sea right there. And you can see right over here, this is Egypt. That's where the Israelites were, and they ran away past the Suez Canal. And if you get a little closer here, you can see the Suez Canal. It's like a little fork that comes out. And most biblical maps show them crossing the Red Sea at this point right here, going down to the bottom. You can see the arrows, the black line there. Going down over to basically Mount Sinai. But if you look right here, this is actually more or less what probably would have happened. They would have went across that whole entire water right there over the Suez Canal. And you can see they got to this little spot in the water, and the first little circles where they would cross the sea. And it's really interesting. We've actually figured out where the spot was. You can see the beach there in the distance. This is a dry riverbed. It's called a wadi, and it leads to the large beach where Moses was trapped till God parted the Red Sea, and you can see the sea in the background. You can even see it on the map right here, that part where they passed the sea. This little dot right there, you can see this little dry area. And if you zoom in a little further, you're going to see this area right here. And there was actually a place where they found the pillar by Ron Wyatt. And it was right over here. And this is the dry riverbed where the children of Israel camped out throughout the mountain. So they came through here. They had rocks on both sides of them. And when they got to the end, they found that they were entrapped by the sea. So the children of Israel was basically stuck here, or at least they thought, until Moses and God parted the Red Sea. And there was a pillar erected right there by King Solomon, right around 1000 BC. It says to commemorate this crossing the Red Sea. And you can see right here, there was a couple people that were taking pictures by the pillar there. And there was actually an article that says, how deep is the water? If you look at that left picture right there, there's actually a land bridge that goes across from this area where they would be walking. You see this little small area right here. So this is the land bridge right here. They had really, really deep water on both sides, and a land bridge right here that was only a couple feet deep. This is a letter that my friend received. This is an underwater path at the Red Sea crossing site discovered by the late Ron Wyatt has received an incredible amount of criticism. We've taken 2 recent trips to the Red Sea with the latest sounding equipment to carry out depth soundings of the seabed. The data has proven to be present at the underwater pathway without doubt, and the reports and pictures from the first trip can be accessed at this website. Our data does match the Israelite chart, and I, for one, appreciate a public refutal for anyone who has publicly stated that it does not exist and it is not true. I believe it would be honorable to do so, as if someone published the lie unknowingly and he learns the truth. So basically what happened is Moses put his rod in the water, God parted the Red Sea, and as the Egyptians were leaving, the water actually closed in on the Egyptians and killed them all. And you can actually see that there's a newspaper articles that came out showing that there's actually rib cages and hands and fingers at the bottom of this area where the Red Sea is. They've also found ship's wheels. You can see some right here. It's a war chariot that had a 4-spoke and an 8-spoke wheel. And you can see over here the Jalab Laws, which is the Mountain of Laws. That's where the Mount Sinai would be. And obviously it's in Saudi Arabia. And if you go to Galatians 4:24, it says, which things are the allegory, for which things are 2 covenants, as for one for the Mount Sinai, which genereth the bondage, which is in Agar. For Agar is a Mount Sinai in Arabia, so it's in Saudi Arabia. This is actually the top of Mount Sinai, and you can see the top part was darker, because that's where the God was up there with Moses and the pillar of fire and everything. And if you look down from the top of Mount Sinai, you can still see that some of the fencing and everything is down there. You can see the golden calf on the wall there. There's a little bit more of a close-up to it. But back to 1 Corinthians 10. And did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock that flowed them, the rock of the Christ. So later on you see that Moses smites a rock, and then the rock actually brings out water. If you look at Exodus 17:6, it says, behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Hebron, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, and the people may drink. And if you look at some of the biblical pictures, you're going to see a picture like this little trickle of water coming out of the mountain, out of the rock. Or even this one, which even has more water. But you got to figure there was like 2 million people plus their livestock. This would never be able to actually give them enough water. This is the actual rock that was split. It doesn't look very large here. It's taken about a half mile away. And the split in the rock is about the size of a 5-story building. Here's a closer look of it right here. A massive amount of water would needed to feed all the people, to give drink to all the people, including their horses. Back to 1 Corinthians 10, verse 5. But with many of God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown into the wilderness. Now these things were examples unto the intent we should not lust after evil things as they were lusted. Neither ye be idolaters, as some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 320,000. There's actually a controversy here, because if you go to Numbers, it says 20 and 4,000. So 1 Corinthians says 23,000, Numbers says 24,000. Well, if you go to the website, you're going to see all kind of websites that are about biblical contradictions. And the specific one here, it talks about different biblical contradictions and shows where the contradictions are. If you go down here to 58, it says when the Israelites dwelt in Shittim, they committed adultery with the daughters of Moab, and God struck them down with a plague. And how many people died in the plague? Again, Numbers says it's 24,000. 1 Corinthians says 23,000. But what they're missing is, if you look at 1 Corinthians, it says neither of us commit fornication. Some of them committed as fell in one day, 320,000. Well, clearly you can see that in one day, 23,000 died. But in the whole plague, 24,000 died. So an extra 1,000 people died during this plague. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 9. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed by the destroyer. Now all these things happened to them for ensamples, that they are written for our admonition, among whom the end of the world will come. Therefore let him that thinketh he stand and take heed lest fall. He's saying that all these biblical stories you're hearing is set for examples. That way you can say, hey, this is what they did. Let's not make the same mistakes. There has no temptation taken, but for you as such unto a man. But God is faithful, and who would not suffer unto you to be tempted above all that are able? But I will with temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. And a lot of people read this verse and they say, well, it says right here, God's not going to tempt you anywhere above what you're able. So God's not going to give you more than you can handle. But it says here, but will the temptation also make a way to escape, that you might be able to bear it? You see, God says when you feel stressed out, when you feel like you have too much going on, you give it to Him. So you might be at your breaking point, you give it to God, now you can handle more. You're always able to handle what God gives you because you're supposed to actually ask God to help you with it. But a lot of people say, oh, the devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. There's even different drinks and stuff called the devil made me do it. Got little mascots and everything like that. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, and he has no temptation taken, but to you that is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above you that are able, but with the temptation also make it the way to escape. See, Satan can take you to the edge of the cliff, but it's you that's going to jump off. This right here, so the devil may push you up to the edge, but it's always your choice whether to take the last step. Don't blame God if you do something dumb. You know, the devil can tempt you to a certain point, but he can't make you do it. He can't push you off the cliff. He can't make you take that last drink. He can't make you do that drug. You make that choice. Here's an even bigger cliff right here, just for scale. See, in Matthew, this is when Jesus was tested. Matthew 4:6. If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. Luke 4:9 is the same story. Cast thyself down. He didn't push him. He said that Jesus, you make that choice to jump down. So if you go to Matthew 4, it says, then was Jesus led up for the Spirit unto the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterwards hungered. When the tempter came unto him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made of bread. See, he's tempting Jesus, saying, turn this stone into bread so you can eat because you're hungry. But he answered and said, it is written, man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. So the devil took him up to the holy city and set it up upon a pinnacle of the temple, right to the edge of the cliff. And he said unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, he shall give the angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear up, unless the time that they dash the foot against the stone. See, the devil's saying, if you jump off this cliff, if you're really the Son of God, you're not going to die because the angels are going to come save you. And what did Jesus say? Jesus said unto him, it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And then again the devil taketh him to an exceedingly high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and all the glory of them. And he said unto him, all these things I will give you if you'll fall down and worship me. And then Jesus said unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and only him shall they serve. See, he keeps tempting Jesus, but he can't force him to do it because it's our decision. And what did Jesus do? He basically went back to the Bible and said, the Bible says this. He basically counteracted everything the devil said. Psalms 111, 9 and 11 says, wherefore all shall a young man cleanse his way, but take heed thereto unto thy word. That thy word I have hidden in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee. In Psalms it's saying, read the Bible, understand the Bible, know the Bible. Now, I know the Bible quite well, but I'm not really able to quote Scripture. I don't have that kind of skill. But I know what it says, and if you give me a minute or two, I can show it to you. But at least you got to know what it says, because the devil knows what it says. You got to give it right back to him. You got to let the devil know also that you read the book, and Jesus wins in the end. Back to 1 Corinthians 10. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge ye what I say. A cup of blessings which we bless is not the communion of the blood of Christ. The bread which we break is not the communion of the blood of Christ. See, he's saying, the Catholics believe that when you drink the wine, it is literally the blood of Christ. And when you eat the bread, it's literally his body. And Paul's saying that's not true. It's just an idea. It's just a symbol. It's just something to make you think about what Christ has done for you. For we being many are of one bread and of one body, and we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Israel after the flesh are not which they eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar. What say I then? That the idol is all one thing, or that is offered a sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say it's the thing which the Gentiles sacrifice. They sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not ye should have fellowship with devils. He's saying there's people outside these walls, they're doing bad things. Don't do what they're doing. Worship God and only God. You cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the tables of devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than He? He's saying that you can't go out and do all these sinful things and then come to church on Sunday and say, "Look, I'm a Christian." You gotta follow God throughout your whole entire life. I know many people that go to church and everybody in church thinks they're great, but then when they leave the church, they do all these bad things. We can't do that. If you go to Joshua 24, it says, "Now therefore fear the Lord and serve Him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt to serve ye the Lord." Joshua was saying, don't make the mistake your fathers did and worship idols. You're not going to follow God. And if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, or whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house will serve the Lord. Joshua was telling these people, you can't have two masters. You can't follow God and follow these idols. You got to pick one. You do what you want to do, but see, me and my house, we're going to serve God. Back to 1 Corinthians 10, verse 23. "And all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth." He's saying you could do whatever you want. You have free will. You can go out and you could do all these bad things, but understand there's consequences for it. Just because you think this is the easy way, it might not be the easy way. And just because you're allowed to do something doesn't mean it's going to edify you. It's not going to make your life better. You take what you have and don't covet what your partner has over there. I am plenty old enough to legally enter a bar, but it'd be a stumbling block to many. Imagine somebody saw me in the bar going, "Is that Pastor Green? What's he doing in this bar?" Some people think it's okay to drink, some people don't. But I'm not going to take that risk for somebody to see me and think differently of me, going, "Well, I thought the Christians were against drinking. He's in here drinking." I can do it. It's legal. It's lawful. I'm old enough to do it. But is it really going to help my cause? Is it really going to help people come to Christ? Absolutely not. "Whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat, ask you no question for the conscience sake, but for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." He's saying that you could do whatever you want. You could eat what you want. You could drink what you want. You could act any way you want. But it's not going to edify you. It's not going to change. It's not going to be a good thing at the end. "If any of them that believeth not bid you the feast, and you be disposed to go, whatsoever is set before you eat, ask you no questions for conscience sake. But if any man says unto you, This is offered in sacrifice to idols, eat not for his sake that showeth it, and for conscience' sake, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." He's saying, you can eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't really. If meat is sacrificed to idols, it doesn't matter if you eat it. But if somebody tells you, just so you know, these are sacrificed to idols, maybe you shouldn't eat it because maybe they're trying to trick you. Maybe they're trying to mess with you. So because of how it looks, you shouldn't do it. "Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the others. For why is my liberty judged for another man's conscience? For if I by grace be partakers, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks?" He's saying that because of what other people are going to think, you shouldn't do it. People are going to say evil things about you. I remember I went to a church one time and I preached there, and afterwards they had a dinner, and I ate my food, and I went up there. I got desserts, and actually I didn't get to dessert yet. I'm eating some hard-boiled eggs, deviled eggs. And some lady comes up and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing eating those eggs? Those are the devil's eggs. You can't eat the devil's eggs. That's wrong." I guess in her mind she thought because the word devil was in it, it was some kind of evil thing to eat. And I was like, well, I guess I better not go up there and get the devil's food cake. That'd be bad too. Because people see things and they assume certain things. You don't want to be a stumbling block for somebody because of that. Whatever therefore ye shall eat or drink, or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of God, even as I pleased all men in all things, not seeking mine own profits, but the profits of many that may be saved. Paul's saying, there's things I could do that's lawful, legal, in my realm, and it wouldn't hurt me at all. But because somebody might see that and think things of me, I choose not to do it, because it's not going to profit people. I try to do everything I can to glorify God, so people see that they want to come to God as well. Well, guys, that's the video. I appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you'd like me to come speak at your church, if you have any questions, you can email me. You can also comment below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Like the video. If you think somebody might enjoy this, please share it with them. On the bottom right of the screen is going to be the 1 Corinthians Bible study. Top left of the screen is going to be the Luke Bible study, or maybe Exodus, I can't remember. The bottom of the screen is going to be the YouTube video that YouTube thinks you're going to like. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have yourself a great day.